Isaiah chapter 43. Isaiah 43 reads this way, and you've heard these words. Here's what he says. He says, do not remember the former things, beginning at verse 18, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing now. I shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The beasts of the field will honor me, the jackals and the ostriches, because I give water in the wilderness and rivers in the desert to give drink to my people, my chosen. This people I have formed for myself. They shall declare my praise. Do me a favor, do me a favor. I want you to get to 2 or 3 people and just tell them, neighbor, I see God giving it back. Come on, tell somebody, I see God giving it back. Tell them, I see God giving it back. I see God giving it back. Everything the enemy stole from me, I see God giving it back. Come on, you ought to tell them, all that I lost, I see God giving it back. Everything I lost, I see God giving it back. I see God giving it back. You thought it was over for me. It ain't over for me. God is giving it back. 2016 is my year. God is giving it back. 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 If you're near a praiser, high five them, tell them, I believe he's giving yours too. Come on, I believe he's giving yours too. I dare you just to jump up and just tell God, give it back. Give it back. Hey. Give it back, give it back, give it back. God is giving it back. I decree and declare this is going to be the year for somebody's restoration. This is going to be the year for something to be released that's been held up from you. This is going to be the year that God's going to renew his covenant with you. This is going to be the year that God's going to repair some things that have been torn down. This is going to be the year of God's restoration and favor, and you just need to know it. God is getting ready to give it back. God's getting ready to give it back. You know, if you didn't lose it, if it hadn't been messed up, if you hadn't went through anything, if it hadn't been taken away from you, you wouldn't need him to give it back. But since you've been what you've been through, since you struggled the way you struggled, since you cried the way you cried, since it's been torn up, torn down, torn asunder, God said, don't you worry about it. I'm giving it back. You don't need renewal of anything that's new. What you need renewal of is that which is old and worn. And some of us have nearly been worn out by the struggle. But God said, don't worry, I can even renew your strength. God said, don't worry, I can restore your joy. Don't worry, I can repair the breach. God said, I'm getting ready to give it back, 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 give it back. God said, I'm giving it back, I'm giving it back, I'm giving it back. Give me just a couple of minutes. Let me see. You know, I'm really believing that the Word of God says this. God says, I'm in the process of returning something to its original condition. I am repairing and renewing and restoring. I'm cleaning it up again. I'm in the act of bringing back something new. It existed before, but I'm going to make it over again. God said, I'm returning something that was stolen from you. I'm bringing it back to you. I know they stole it, but I'm bringing it back. I'm fond, and I tell folk all the time, I'm fond of some of these stories on TV, these new shows of restoration. You know, it started with This Old House, and they show how they restore a building, and they have those like chasing classic cars, and I like to see them put a car back together again that was no good. They remake it over. I'm a big fan of Bob Foose, and Bob Foose takes those muscle cars. I'm a muscle car fan. You know, most of us guys of the 70s dreamed of having a 69 Mustang or a 72 fastback, a Mustang Mach 1 or something. You know, those are, help me somebody. And I like the way Bob Foose will restore them. He'll bring them back to life again. They'll find a barn find, get it with no wheels on it and all rusting out and falling apart, engine in trouble, everything. And then they'll take it all apart and rip it all up and sand it and grind it all down and begin to repaint everything. They do it off the chassis restoration. Got to take it off the chassis and put it back together again. And the one thing I like about it is when they do it right, it looks like the old car, but it ain't got the old mess. You see, some of those old cars, they were fast. They were muscle cars. They had Hemi engines in them. They had engines that had demon carburetors. But the one thing they couldn't do is they couldn't stop all that well. And they didn't have positronics. So sometimes the wheels would slip on one side and they couldn't grip on both sides. So when they redo the vehicles, they redo them with modern technology in the midst of an old chassis. Y'all don't hear me. In other words, I can't put it back just like it was, because if I did, it wouldn't work in today's standards. If we put one back to museum quality, it's a car you're not going to drive. It's going to be in the museum. It's going to have all the old parts and all the old engineering. You don't drive that. But if you want to drive it today, we might have to improve the braking capacity. We might have to improve the steering mechanism. We might have to improve the engine. We might have to improve how the car rides under pressure of modern roads. You don't hear what I'm talking about. The thing I like about what God's getting ready to do in your life, when God restores you, he's not bringing you back to what you were or where you were, because that ain't good enough. If God gives you your 1989 money, it ain't going to help you in 2016. You need God to restore you with an increase. I need some interest on my dividends. I need God to add something. I like compound interest, if you will. I want God to add something. And here's what God said: I'm getting ready to add favor to your life, and the latter is going to be greater than your past. You didn't hear me up in here. I said your latter will be greater than your past. Look at somebody now, just tell them, neighbor, what's coming is much better than what's been. What's coming is better than what's been. Let me help you here. The Bible teaches us that the book of Isaiah, which is extremely interesting, Isaiah is one of the latter prophets. He is a major prophet. But when one reads the book of Isaiah, it is more of a compendium than a whole book written by an individual. There are 66 chapters in the book of Isaiah, and generally they're broken up at the most part to 2 parts, but generally to 3 parts. And in the 3-part breakup of Isaiah, if you look at it, the first part is chapters 1 through 39, and the second part is chapters 40 through 55, which would make the third part chapters 56 through 66. Let me go somewhere with it. So in first Isaiah, if you would, 1 through 39, it's all about the judgment of God. It's all about what's going to happen and what will happen. In the first part, if you notice, the text will teach you this, that they experience a lot of tragedy. Matter of fact, they go from the high to the low. They go from having a good time to a bad time. I'm trying to help somebody. In other words, they go from being in the wonderful place of Jerusalem into Babylonian captivity. They go from having their own homes into being ruled in a home. They go from being leaders to being servants of other people. And in the midst of it all, they go from having all that God's best. Well, let me put it like this way. They were the Jeffersons that moved to the east side that God sent back to the projects. Y'all ain't trying to help me preach here. In the first part, they go back down into a bad situation. So, but in the second part, beginning at chapter 40, God said, look, you've been hanging down there long enough. I'm getting ready to bring you back up again. And this time, you ain't going back no more. I'm getting ready to bring you. Y'all ain't got what I'm going yet. Y'all. Listen. I'm getting ready to take you from where you are to where you need to be. And so in 2nd Isaiah, God begins to promise restoration. God said, I'm getting ready to work this thing out. I'm getting ready to fix this thing up. I'm getting ready to bless you. And if you read the text closely, what God says to them is, I know you've been through some things, but you've got to realize God's getting ready to do something exceedingly and abundantly above all that you could ask or think. Now, I just need 2 or 3 people. Have you ever had a blessing that blew your mind? I'm walking in one right now. You ever had a blessing that blew your mind? It was beyond your wildest imagination. God said this next miracle for your life is going to blow your mind. It's going to be beyond your wildest imagination, because you can't even think that high. You can't even think that blessed. You can't even think that move of God. God said, I'm getting ready to put a move of God on you right now that's going to blow every circuit in your socket, and you're going to find out just how good your God really is. God's about to blow your mind. On the way to the mind-blowing experience, God says this: you need to understand that I need you to release the past. I talked about this a little bit on Thursday night. Let me see if I can walk with you again. Listen, God said, I need you to release the past. Lord, what am I releasing from the past? Well, there are 2 things. You always have to remember this. There are 2 things. Number 1, I need to release the past, my sorrows, so that I can clear my slate for what God's getting ready to do in my situation. Let me help you here. There are some folk here who have been bruised and wounded so much in your life, you can't love like you ought to love because you're still hurt from the last love. God said, I need you to release the past. Y'all ain't got that just yet. Because one man did you wrong don't mean every man gonna do you wrong. Because you ran into one dog don't mean everybody gotta have a bow wow, yippee-yo, yippee-yay. Listen, you've got to know, God said there's some stuff that you've been through you can't allow to keep you from your next blessing. You've got to release the past. Lord, what am I releasing? I got to release all my sorrow. I've got to, Rem Burns loved to sing that song. I'm trading my sorrow. I'm trading my pain. I'm laying it down for the joy of the Lord. Y'all ain't got that. See, you've got to realize it's time to trade in your sorrow. Look at somebody right now. Just say, neighbor, 2016, I'm trading in my sorrow. I'm sick and tired living in what happened to me back in 1980. I'm sick and tired of living in what happened to me when I went through that situation. I'm not living in death no more, divorce no more, depression no more, degradation no more, depravity no more, despair no more. I'm getting ready to lay it all down. That's all behind me. I'm going to forget the former days. I'm going to release the past. Let me help you here. As long as you keep holding on to the past, you can't walk into your future. You better let go of that so you can get what God has for you now. As long as the enemy can trick you in to holding on to old grudges, to old unforgiveness, you don't hear what I'm saying, to old hurts and old pains, you will never get what God is doing for you right now. You got to let it go. You got to TKO that mess. You got to knock it out. It's got to be over and done with. You've got to release the past. But it's not just the sorrow. See, some of us are stuck in the past blessings. So we think that because we were blessed before, we don't have to do anything to keep the blessing. Oh, y'all didn't hear me now. See, I like to use this example. Mike Tyson is arguably, of our generation, one of the greatest boxers ever. Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, he is arguably one of the greatest ever. I know Muhammad Ali. I love Muhammad Ali. But Mike Tyson was something else. But Mike Tyson was knocking out everybody. After Cutts died, Mike wasn't working as hard. Mike ran into Robin Givens. He was over his head. I'm just saying, I'm preaching now. Y'all excuse me. I love her too. She's a sweetheart. Listen, but when that happened, Mike was knocking out everybody. But when he got to Tokyo and ran into Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson thought he was going to walk in the ring and shake like Samson and have his strength and knock him out. But Mike forgot that it took hard work to be Iron Mike. Y'all don't hear me. And for the first time, we saw Iron Mike melt. And he was crawling on the mat looking for his mouthpiece. And I said to myself, at some point, you got to forget even your past victories. Because if you keep sitting around thinking about what you did and how good you were, you're never going, oh man, you don't hear me. Some of us are still going on the last victory. You got to remain hungry for the next thing God's getting ready to do. I'm trying to, I say this, I digress for a moment, but it is sermonic in its of itself. Most of you who are football fans last night probably watched at least one or two of the bowl games. One of the best games of the night was TCU against Oregon. Now, for those of you that like football, you understand exactly what I'm saying now. TCU-Oregon game was something else. I tell you, by halftime, I thought it was over. Most folk were turning off their TVs. It was 31-0 at half. I mean 31-0. By football standards, it is a blowout. I'm telling you, it's a blowout. It's horrible. It can't get no worse. I'm just sitting there and saying, oh my God, I feel so bad for them. But what you have to realize is you can't get caught up in the first half because there's a second half coming. I'm trying to cut this now. Listen, the first half was the blowout, but the second half, 1 through 39, the blowout. But the second half, things start changing in the second half. Y'all don't hear me. if you turned off in the beginning, you missed the second half, because by the end of the second half, they had not only come back, but they had tied them up on a last-second field goal. So it was 31-31, and there was overtime. Y'all missed that. First thing is, I'm glad that there's always a second half. Don't look at the first half of my life and think it's over, because I done been through hell. I'm trying to preach up in here. I know you may look at the first half and it's over for me, but it ain't over for me, because there's a second half coming. Look at somebody, tell them, you better watch out, my second half's coming. My second half's coming. Look out, somebody, here comes my comeback. Here's my comeback is on the way. My comeback is on the way. First half wasn't too good, but my second half's coming, and it's going to be a comeback. Well, now, I'm sitting there looking now, and now my wife and I done tried to go to bed. I'm tired. I got to get up early in the morning. I got to be here to preach at 7:30. Listen, now, but you know what really interests me? Was that it was not enough to have a second half. They needed a overtime. 1 through 39, 40 through 55, 56 starts overtime. And it is not until 56 that we get the messianic talk about what Jesus will do, because he was wounded, our transgression, bruised for our iniquity, and the chastisement of our peace was upon him. Y'all ain't not just watching. Here you go, watch this. I'm going somewhere. They had to go to 3 overtimes in order to have the win. I just want to help somebody. Touch that person next to you. Tell them, neighbor, I know I'm going to win now, because my Lord spent 3 days in the grave. He already did my overtime. He already did my overtime. You've got to recognize the present. Now he says, I will do a new thing. Look at somebody, tell them there's a brand new thing going on. Look at somebody, tell them Papa got a brand new bag. Papa don't take no mess. Yeah. I'm closing just a minute. I promise you I'm closing. I'm gonna close. Listen. I gotta recognize the present. Now here's the kicker. Watch this. If you don't recognize that you're being blessed, then you'll still act like you're not. Y'all missing something. I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. What do you mean, Reverend? Well, I want to help you here. When you have surgery, if they cut out what's wrong with you, your present may not feel that good immediately. You may still be on pain medication and antibiotics. It doesn't feel good right away, but you got to know the healing is taking place, even though I can't see how God's healing me. I'm walking down somebody's street. You see, don't look for the regular signs to tell you that God's getting ready to bless you. You're going to have to take his word for it and just go ahead and tell somebody now, I know he's blessing me. You're going to have to take my word for it right now, because you have to realize that God is doing it whether you see it or not. He says, I will do a new thing. Shall you not know it? He says, you better recognize, girl. You better recognize, man. You better recognize, boy. You better recognize, woman. I'm doing it anyway. Whether you see it or not, I'm doing it. I've committed to it. There's a blessing with your name on it. There's a blessing with your name on it. There's healing with your name on it. There's deliverance with your name on it. There's salvation with your name on it. There's victory with your name on it. I'm doing 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 it. Right now, I'm doing it. It is being done. You see, here's the good news. See, when God restores my soul, he will still let me go through the valley. But the thing is, I don't have to worry. I'm not going by myself. I don't mind going as long as I'm not going alone. Let me go to the fiery furnace as long as you're going to show up as the fourth man in there. I don't mind going in the valley as long as you're going to be there as the lily of the valley. I don't mind going through darkness as long as you're going to be the light that shineth in darkness. I don't mind weeping as long as you're going to be the one that promises to dry all of my tears. I don't mind being hungry as long as you're the one that has promised to feed me when I'm hungry. I don't mind being down as long as you're the one that promised to be the lifter up of my head. And as long as you made a promise, I'm ready to recognize the present that God is with me. All right, this is it, y'all. This is it. I'm going now. Y'all just don't know how to get this thing. Can you get this last one? He says, I'm going to do this. He says, but I need y'all to do one thing for me. He says, I need you to receive the promise. I need you to receive the promise. Y'all didn't get it yet. I need you to receive the promise. I need you to, let me help somebody right now. You see, you can have something at the claim window. As long as it's still there, it's yours, but you don't have possession of it until you go pick it up. If you believe that God's made a promise to you and you're ready to receive it, you ought to lift your hands and start receiving the promise. He said, because this people have I formed for my praise. And the way you're going to receive the promise is you're not going to wait till the battle is over. You're going to go ahead and begin to receive it now and begin to praise him now. Begin to send up a shout of victory now. You're getting ready to tell God, glory, hallelujah, I receive it even now. You're God all by yourself. Come on, receive it. Come on, receive it. Come on and bless his name. Bless his name. Look at the person next to you and just say, neighbor, it's time to rest. I'm going my seat now. You didn't tell them like you meant it. Look at somebody, tell them it's time to rest. You didn't do it. Look at him, tell him, say, God said, rest. You didn't say it like you meant it. Tell him, God said, rest. You ain't say it like you meant it. Yeah, you know, if you really love that person, you ought to tell them like you mean it. You ought to look at them and tell them God said rest, 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 rest. The psalmist says, he maketh me to, and where? I said rest. Because what I'm getting ready to do is, he's going to do what? Restore my soul. I'm trying to close it now. He said, rest. He said, I'll make you do what? Lie down. Where at? Green pastures. And I'm going to do what? Restore your soul. I just thought you'd like this acrostic. Look at somebody right now. Tell them, neighbor, God said he's restoring everything Satan stole. Rest on it. Rest on it. He's restoring everything Satan stole. R is for restore. The E is everything. The S is Satan that stole. You don't hear me. He stole it, but God is restoring. Here's gonna kick. I'm gonna kick you right now. I'm gonna kick you. Come, one more second. One more second. You got 1 second. Here you go. Some of what the devil took, God said, you don't need anyway. The only things that count are the ones worth restoring. I told you I'm done, but there's some stuff God's not bringing back to you. And the reason he's not bringing back to you is because you don't need it. You don't need it. They stole my bike when I was a little boy. I don't need it. God already gave me a Harley. Keep the bike. Look at somebody now. Tell them, neighbor, what God's giving you back is only what you need. Somebody give him a praise. God is restoring everything Satan took. Everything Satan took. Everything Satan took. Everything Satan took. He took some things, but he's restoring everything Satan took. Come on, give him a praise for everything Satan took. The doors of the church open. You can come today. God is moving